Hi, I'm Laura with Scantling Photography, and this is Connor, who's 3 years old. And I did some little fighter portraits of him with his brother. And we smiled really good, didn't we? You're Connor. Did you take pictures? How do you smile for pictures?
I don't know how.
Do you say achoo? Miss Laura says achoo, and then you laugh. Achoo! And then you laugh.
So about a month ago on December 11th, we had Connor taken to our pediatrician because we thought he had strep throat. And he had some bruising on his neck. He had a bloody nose that he'd had over the weekend, and he'd had a bad taste in his mouth and had just felt like really lethargic and had a fever. And we just thought like we had excuses for like the bloody nose was the bad weather, the cold weather, the bumps and the bruising on his neck. He'd been at moon bounces and at Chick-fil-A playing, so we thought it was just that. He had other bruises, and they just thought he's a very active kid. And then so we tested for the strep throat. He didn't have that, and our pediatrician put everything together. And they said we need you to go up to the children's hospital and get tested just to narrow this out. He's like, but it looks like signs of leukemia when I put everything together. And so we took it up there, and we were both at work on our lunch breaks. We met my mom up there, who's our primary caretaker during the day. And so we all met up there, and then they took us back there, did testing, and then about an hour later, they determined that we did in fact have leukemia. We have a type called ALL leukemia, which is acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And so they told us that, and then we went from that to being admitted that evening, and we stayed 5 nights in the hospital. And then over that, we started chemotherapy over this past month, and we just completed a round called induction, which is an extreme, very intense chemo over 28 days. And so we completed that today, and we did testing to find out, if the results are that. And so over this time, he's had eight rounds of chemo. He's had multiple lumbar spinal punctures. He's had some bone aspirates in his hip to pull bone marrow out of his hip bone. And then he's had a port placed in his chest so that they can access and give chemotherapy into his chest. And so that's what our story's been for this past month.
Do they know exactly what it is?
It's the acute lymphoblastic leukemia, so ALL leukemia. So it's the most common of childhood leukemias, even though leukemia is very rare for kids. I think about, if I remember my numbers right, about 500 kids a year get that, and then I think that type of leukemia is of all childhood leukemias, I believe 25% is that. So childhood cancer in general is very rare, but it's the most common type of leukemia that children get.
What kind of treatment do they get?
So he does, chemotherapy is the main treatment since it's a blood-borne cancer. It's not like a mass or a tumor where they could cut it out or do radiation. So for his type of cancer, then the leukemia, then it's all chemotherapy. So, and when I first thought of cancer with kids or adults, I thought chemotherapy was just chemotherapy that, whether it was an adult or a kid or what type of chemotherapy it was, that everyone was getting the same type of drug. But there's multiple different types of drugs that have been researched and target different types of leukemia. And so he primarily gets leukemia. Like I said, in this past month, he's had 8 rounds. 5 to 6 of those rounds were in through his port, so they can access, it's a permanent IV line in his chest kind of that accesses into his blood vessels. And then they can add a needle to that and give him the chemotherapy. And then also for his type of leukemia, the spine is another place that it can reside, and so they've given him preventative chemotherapy in his spine. So when they do the lumbar punctures to do testing, they also add the chemotherapy in his spine to make sure, kind of as a safeguard, to make sure that it doesn't go into his spine. So for him, it's those. We also do a lot of steroids. And they are the type. So it's kind of the same type of steroids that people get if they have like various infections and stuff. But most people do them really strong for like 5 to 7 days, and then they taper off. He's did a very strong amount of steroids twice a day for 28 days straight, and it gives him like literally like anxiety and roid rage. Like he's been very like hyperactive and argumentative, and it's all caused him to gain massive amount of weight. So to put like he in the past 2 weeks has gained 10.5 pounds, which is 28% of his body weight. So to put that in perspective, that would be like me, a 200-pound man, gaining 56 pounds in 2 weeks. So, and then he also has like various medications like a Pepsid to help his stomach. He does 3 days a week. He does an antibiotic to make sure that certain infections like pneumonia and such don't set in. And then there's various the chemo can cause various things, so then they'll give various medicines to help with that. So like he developed a fungus rash, and so we had to do a special cream to help get that, and the kind of chemo helps set that up. On top of that too, we do blood work, so he'll do lots of blood work either through his port or lots of finger sticks each week. We're in there to check his numbers and make sure everything's right. And then as a result of that, he has a compromised immune system. And so like Christmas Eve, we spent the day in the hospital because he got RSV, which could be very dangerous in small kids, but a kid his size would normally just be home. But we had to spend a day in the hospital to help get like very special IV drugs and such to help prevent that. So it's kind of the things we've gone through in our journey so far.
How did it affect your life? Like, what was your reaction to hearing it?
Definitely shock. Like I said, we thought we were going to get antibiotics or a shot or something like that for typical strep throat that both of our boys had before. So we thought we'd go get the shot, we'd be back to work, we'd do a course of 7 to 10 days of antibiotics and that. So complete shock. Uprooted. We lived in a hospital for 5 days immediately. Both of us have been off work for over a month now. Because we've had around-the-clock caretaking. Obviously, there's been an element of anxiety. I mean, we've had bouts of like depression or worry. Because as a parent, like it's a helpless thing. So we've obviously had to battle like depression, anxiety. Lots of worry.
No schedule.
Yeah,
We were
no
very
schedule.
methodical. We used to have like a really good schedule. We wake up at this time. We go to bed at this time. Now it's kind of everyone's just on their own, and we're sleeping all over the house, not in our normal beds, and so.
Yeah.
Just-
And what they taught us, like we work with a great team of like social workers, psychologists, obviously our doctors, our oncologists, and they use a term that's called the new normal. And so they say the first month's really kind of a shock to your system, or really understanding that. And so we're now about 28 days in, and we're starting to understand that new normal, which is obviously a lot different than our family was prior to that. So different, like she said, different schedules, different things.
We're very busy. We're usually on the go a lot. Our kids are very busy, so we kind of all just are standing still at this point.
Yeah.
So it's a lot different. We're not used to having this much downtime. We're usually pretty active.
Yeah, we've been very confined to the house this past month. We haven't been able to take him out of the house except for the doctor's appointment. So no Walmart, no grocery stores, nothing like that. No jump zones, no birthday parties, things like that.
Has he shown any signs of improvement?
He has. So we've been really, really fortunate. We believe we caught it early. They don't really know for sure. They don't have like a baseline to see like how long they think you've had it. But his levels are really low, and he's also between ages of 1 and 10, and he's 3 years old, is the best case scenario for the type of leukemia he has. And so he's luckily there. And then because we caught it early, his counts were really low, and so they hit it really hard with the chemotherapy. And you can see they have what's called blast cells, and he had like 76% at first, and then over those first couple weeks you could see those percentages and all that blood work go down. So currently he shows no blast cells, and then his percentage of the disease was very low. And then our testing that we did today, next week we will know 98% of kids with his condition end up in remission after this first month. And so we're very hopeful that that's where we will be when we go to our appointment on Tuesday, that he will be in remission. And so one thing about the remission, though, we thought is, we're in remission, we're done. But really, it's just getting started, because we get in remission, and then we do another 3 years of treatment. So he'll have various stages of chemotherapy at different intervals to kind of trick it and take care of it and attack all the different points. Because leukemia is a very kind of smart disease where it will come back and attack. And so we'll do 3 years of treatment on top of that. But being in remission gives us our best chance for the overall success of the fight and the journey.
How did it affect your life? Like, what was your reaction to hearing it?
Definitely shock. Like I said, we thought we were going to get antibiotics or a shot or something like that for typical strep throat that both of our boys had before. So we thought we'd go get the shot, we'd be back to work, we'd do a course of 7 to 10 days of antibiotics and that. So complete shock, uprooted. We lived in a hospital for 5 days immediately. Both of us have been off work for over a month now, because we've had around-the-clock caretaking. Obviously, there's been an element of anxiety. I mean, we've had, bouts of like depression or worry, because as a parent, like it's a helpless thing. So we've obviously had to battle like, depression, anxiety, lots of worry.
No schedule.
Yeah,
We were
no
very
schedule.
methodical. We used to have like a really good schedule. We wake up at this time, we go to bed at this time. Now it's kind of everyone's just, on their own, and we're sleeping all over the house, not in our normal beds, and so.
Yeah.
Just-
And what they taught us, like we work with a great team of like social workers, psychologists, obviously our doctors, our oncologists, and they use a term that's called the new normal. And so they say the first month's really kind of a shock to your system, or really understanding that. And so we're now about 28 days in, and we're starting to understand that new normal, which is obviously a lot different than our family was prior to that. So different, like she said, different schedules, different things.
We're very busy. We're usually on the go a lot. Our kids are very busy, so we kind of all just, are standing still at this point.
Yeah.
So it's a lot different. We're not used to having this much downtime. We're usually pretty active.
Yeah, we've been very confined to the house this past month. We haven't been able to take him out of the house except for the doctor's appointment. So no Walmart, no grocery stores, nothing like that. No jump zones, no birthday parties, things like that.
Has he shown any signs of improvement?
He has. So we've been really, really fortunate. We believe we caught it early. They don't really know for sure. They don't have like a baseline to see like how long they think you've had it. But his levels were really low, and he's also between ages of 1 and 10, and he's 3 years old, is the best case scenario for the type of leukemia he has. And so he's luckily there. And then because we caught it early, his counts were really low, and so they hit it really hard with the chemotherapy. And you can see they have what's called blast cells, and he had like 76% at first, and then over those first couple weeks you could see those percentages and all that blood work go down. So currently he shows no blast cells, and then his percentage of the disease was very low. And then our testing that we did today, next week we will know 98% of kids with his condition end up in remission after this first month. And so we're very hopeful, that that's where we will be, and when we go to our appointment on Tuesday, that he will be in remission. And so one thing about the remission, though, we thought is, we're remission, we're done. But really, it's just getting started, because we get in remission, and then we do another 3 years of treatment. So he'll have various stages of chemotherapy at different intervals to kind of trick it and take care of it and attack all the different points. Because leukemia is a very kind of smart disease where it will come back and attack. And so we'll do 3 years of treatment on top of that. But being in remission gives us our best chance for the overall success of the fight and the journey.
Ready? Mama, let me see that chocolate. Okay, ready.
What's your name?
Talk louder.
Say it out loud.
Connor.
What's your name? Say a little bit louder.
Connor.
All right.
How old are you, Connor?
3.
What's your full name?
White.
Connor Lloyd.
Connor White.
What's your brother's name?
4. The same.
No. Like it. What's your brother's name?
Gavin. No, Gavin.
How old is your brother?
5.
Connor, what's your favorite snack?
First sex.
And Connor, what do you have right now? Why do you have a port? Yeah, talk louder.
I need to keep it.
Remember your leukemia? Tell me you have leukemia.
It makes me sick.
Yeah, but what do you have?
Leukemia.
Leukemia, yes, good job.
It makes you sick.
What do you like to do?
What's your favorite thing to eat?
What?
What do we go by every day?
Plug it down.
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
I don't love Chick-fil-A.
What do you eat at Chick-fil-A?
Chicken nuggets, French fries. There's McDonald's.
And what's your favorite toys?
Or McDonald's.
Miss Laura, see your baby.
McDonald's toys and the Happy Meals.
I'm gonna play peekaboo. Let me see this. I'm gonna play peekaboo behind the camera while you answer questions.
What's your favorite toy at your house? Or your favorite superhero? What's your favorite movie?
Trolls.
Say it a little bit louder. What's your favorite movie?
Trolls.
What did they do to your fingers?
They poke them.
Does it hurt?
Yes, it hurts very bad.
What about your porch?
Oh,
What do they do with the stethoscope? Well, say it a little bit louder.
listen to my heart. They go. Hey, that's
Connor, can you say go Thunder?
Go find it.
A little bit louder.
Go find it.
Go Thunder!
Go find it.
How do you say it at the games? So that the players can hear you because you gotta be really loud.
When
Say go Thunder.
go wonder.
You guys go to the games?
We haven't taken him, but we do sometimes.
I think that this is absolutely adorable.
All right. When did you start this program?
I started when I first started about 10 years ago. A friend of mine actually had a little boy who was 8 months when he was diagnosed, and he ended up passing away right after his first birthday. And I just did some pictures for her right before he went into the hospital. I don't think that we knew he was going to be not coming home, but we went ahead and took some. And as soon as we did, like as soon as I got the pictures back, I made her a book, and I took it to the funeral, and she cried and was like, I'll never be able to thank you, now I have these, and I wouldn't have even thought to go do them. Years later, I had every now and then thought about, like maybe trying to do it again, and just life gets busy. And then I had my stepdad actually had cancer, and I thought, well, this would be a good way to honor him, even though he was still alive at the time. I thought, he'll be proud that I'm doing something in that, genre, and, honoring something. And then I'm a children's photographer, and my friend had a little boy that passed away from cancer, and I thought, well, children's photography, nobody talks about it. Might as well, do it and stick to the children's photography kind of thing. So I just made a post on Facebook and said, does anybody know any little girls that are fighting? I've got a picture I want to do. Kind of went along with Ann Getty's does a project she does, and I just wanted something that would speak to people the way she does, with that picture. And I saw hers, I was like, that's amazing. And so I had an idea to do something similar, and I took the picture. Within days, it had gone all over the world. It was insane, and people were talking about it, and, talking about childhood cancer, talking about, everything that goes along with it. And people started to realize, these kids only get 4% funding. And so I thought, well, if I can impact the world because I can take these pictures, I want to keep doing it, keep people talking about it. These kids deserve more than what they get. And I thought, my pictures can help hopefully one day get people to get the funding up, and
Do you plan to grow your business wider?
I do a lot of little fighters right now. I work with Allie's House, who's a local foundation, and we try to get as many of them in. And for the families, I'd love for them to have the memories, and then Allie's House uses them to promote. And it helps with funding, or not funding, it helps with just getting people talking about it. And so I would love to do them all the time, but I would love not to, because then that means that there aren't any fighting, So if they're fighting, I'd love to do it, and in hopes that one day I won't have to anymore, because they're all cured, would be my hopes.
How do you feel about your job?
I love it. I love, like he said, pictures are important. When they're older, they can look back, even if it's just a newborn shot or a kid playing in the park. Those are memories. And for a parent who may lose their child, I can't imagine anything more important than having a photograph, because once they're gone, that's all you have left. So I love being able to capture memories and moments and stories and everything like that. So you can look. Are you playing peekaboo?
She's gonna love that picture.
Peekaboo.
Look under with me. Do it again. Ready?
Peekaboo.
Okay, I think he's ready.
The challenges you had to face going through this.
Some of the challenges I have are, rescheduling, because half the time they can't come. Either the kid has gotten sick, or I've gotten sick, or somebody has come to my studio that's sick. Have to get, everything re-sanitized. And when the first picture went viral, people said it was for attention, which I can't imagine why anybody would ever think, that. But so those are basically the only ones. I mean, there's much more reward than there is, challenge. The hardest part is when we lose one, and I've lost several, and it's heartbreaking. So, and you're gonna make me cry, so we're not gonna talk about that.
All right. What about working with families? Like, I don't know how to ask it. Like, have you grown to be
Friends with them?
friends with them?
Yes.
Associated with their...
Yeah, everyone that I've taken pictures of, all the little kids, I've followed them now, and I've become friends with them, and just like whenever Connor got diagnosed, I was able to reach out to the moms and say, hey, if you guys can get in touch with them and help them, they're new on this journey, and it's almost like a community. Like, all the parents know each other, everybody follows each other, we're all there to support each other. And although I don't have a child fighting, I feel like I'm kind of a part of the community, because I get to meet all the kids, and I get to meet all the parents, and I fall in love with every single one of them. And I was already in love with him because I've known him forever. Huh?
Is your job fun?
Love it. And the little kids, I mean, if you've ever met a kid fighting cancer, and now you have, you can't help but to fall in love with them. To see him today getting his bone drilled in, and he is still here, and he is still laughing. It's incredible. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Isn't it? Are you a beautiful thing? Can you tell him what your name is? Did you forget your name? Who's this? That's Elephant. And who's this? Who was this?
Nosy.
Who are you? You're so silly. So silly. Can you tell him what they do to your fingers? What do they do to your fingers? Can you show him what they did to your finger today? You show him? Say they poke it. Huh. And they poke this right here, your port. Yeah.
That hurts a little bit.
And then you come here and play peekaboo with Miss Lora. Boo! You're so silly. Can you play peekaboo with the camera? Like you do with me? Where'd he go? Oh, where'd he go? Get it off.
Hot.
What else you got?
You got any more stories, like really special stories?
They're all really special. It's hard to, pick one. I mean, I do, even little kids in different kinds of fight. It's not always cancer, like this little one here was in the hospital for the first 2 years of his life because he was born premature. And this was taken, a week before he got to go home for the very first time. You know, he, like, for good, and he's 2 years later is doing great. He's, you know, got his trach out and everything, and, you know, and so I've documented from that point on. I still do all of his pictures, and, you know, like his mom said, every time she sees it, she's just, you know, they're so thankful they're not there. I'm Lora Scantling, and I own Scantling Photography. I took the picture of the 3 little fighters, and we recreate it every year.
I'm Bridget Huey. I'm Riley's mom, one of the 3 original girls.
My name's Neil Lloyd, and I'm Connor Lloyd's dad, and he was just recently diagnosed, so we're the new addition to this picture.
And I'm the mom, Leah Lloyd, for Connor Lloyd.
Connor, we introduced Connor this year, basically because the 3 girls are and have been cancer-free for a while. We didn't want people to forget the original meaning of this project, you know, kids with cancer. And Connor's actually the first client of mine who was a client before he got cancer. All the other little fighters I do actually have come to me because they have cancer. And so it was kind of a, you know, neat way to put those 2 together, you know, remind people that there are still kids being diagnosed, and we still need to focus on that.
How does Lora make you guys feel? Like, everything that she's done?
I mean, I think she's just like family. I mean, that's all. I mean, it's like I said, she just feels like family to us, and she's been through so many important times in our lives, and then being able to capture this, it means a lot.
I think she's very inspiring, even though she probably wouldn't agree with that. You don't realize through one photo how much hope you can bring to one family. And I don't know if she realized the magnitude that this photo was going to do when she decided to do it. But I really think through everything she does, this has just opened up so many doors for her to take pictures of other kids that are fighting. And it may not necessarily be cancer, it may be something else. But I really think inspiring is a great word to describe her.
Pictures are always a worthwhile investment for us. I mean, we always wanted to capture those moments with our kids, but we kind of always took it for granted that, you know, they just would always be here, and, you know, and everything would be good, and, you know, we were just capturing all happy times. And then when we found out about Connor, it's like we realized, like, you know, we already thought the pictures were important and valuable, but then they became, like, you know, invaluable. Like, because at that time too, when I first reached out to her, telling her about Connor, I didn't even know what his prognosis was. We didn't know if it was on the good side or the bad side, and so we had a previous session. I told her, like, I need you to stop everything, because, you know, she has a purging process because she can't keep everything. And so we recently purchased pictures. I said, I want you to hold everything we've had. I want to make sure, because, you know, if this doesn't go either way, if it goes the good way or the bad way, I want to capture every moment possible, because now these are worth even more. It's going to help tell the story, you know, it'll help create those memories. So it kind of exponentially increased the value of photos and those memories to our family.
How has this affected you as a family and your kids? How has it helped them, or how has it affected you guys?
Well, Riley being one of the original girls, she gets a lot of recognition from that. She actually thinks she's famous and wants to know why everybody knows her name. But it's just, for us, it's, you know, trying to get awareness out there. Just, you know, children's cancer only gets 4% of all of the funds for cancer, and it's not enough. So the fact that it's raised all this awareness for children's cancer is amazing, because I feel like maybe we're getting to the point where that 4% is going to start growing, and it should, because our kids deserve more than 4% of funding. So,
and I'd say from the new perspective, so us coming in, so we're only 3 months into it, and so, you know, having been a client of Laura's for, you know, 6 years now, we always kind of saw the pictures and kind of knew she was doing it. But it was kind of one of those things that you knew bad things like that happened, but you just never assumed that it would be us. And then, you know, fast forward, you know, 3 months ago, here we are in that same boat. So, you know, we took Connor in thinking he had strep throat, you know, normal childhood illness, and then, you know, fast forward, you know, a couple hours later we found out he had leukemia, and then a couple days later we found out the type and all that. So we kind of just got put in a whirlwind where we're kind of exposed to it through this, and just, you know, you knew it was out there, but you didn't really ever think it would happen to you, and you didn't realize, you hear it's rare, but then you realize it's not as rare as you think. And I think 1 in 250 approximately people have it. And so kind of just being new into it, you know, and as Laura was saying, it kind of brings us in to kind of show, you know, these girls have been fighting it for 4 or 5 years and had a lot of success, but it shows that there's every day, I think, like 7 to 10 new kids or more get it, and so it just shows that it's constantly happening. And so we're kind of represent that while they've had some successes, here we are starting a new journey here with us.
How did you find Laura?
Facebook.
The Facebook post.
She just put a post out there and said, hey, somebody gave me your name. Your kid just recently finished their battle in cancer, and I was wanting to do a photo shoot. Would you be interested? And at first I was like, oh, I don't know, but we decided to, and it was great.
Kids all came in and were best friends within minutes.
Mm-hmm. They really were.
They were all bald. They came in and were like, you look like me. And it was like instant. They were like, I'm comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally just right away. There was no shyness. And the hugging picture, it took us 2 minutes, right? That was, 2 minutes to do that pose. And they just held on to each other the whole time. It was the sweetest thing.
I think she's just like family. That's all. It's like I said, she just feels like family to us, and she's been through so many important times in our lives, and then being able to capture this, it means a lot.
I think she's very inspiring, even though she probably wouldn't agree with that. You don't realize through one photo how much hope you can bring to one family. And I don't know if she realized the magnitude that this photo was going to do when she decided to do it. But I really think through everything she does, this has just opened up so many doors for her to take pictures of other kids that are fighting. And it may not necessarily be cancer, it may be something else. But I really think inspiring is a great word to describe her.
I really do feel like a parent to these kids, like, so to speak. I love them like my own, and I would do anything for any of them, and they all know that. And I feel like, how do you word this? When you become a part of the cancer community, like childhood cancer. I don't have a child who personally fights cancer, but it's a community where everybody just kind of becomes a big family, and without each other, within 3 days, I think
we've had so many people reach out to us, people that we didn't even know.
I made one post the day, I think it was 2 days later, I made one post, and everybody that I knew from this community reached out, and they were like, this is who you call, this is this, and that is that, and this is how you get the help. And one mom who had literally just lost her little girl weeks before reached out and was just helpful, and as hard as it had to have been for her to be able to help somebody else, and then once you've experienced and been around a kid like that, you kind of have to just be a part of it, and you want to help other kids in any way that, it doesn't matter how you do it, just some way to help these kids. You can't not. It's just kind of one of those, once you're in it forever, and it's a community.
Yeah, I think that's what the new picture means to me. Kind of the 3 girls have already finished, I hate to say finished their journey, because it's something that's going to affect them forever with all the tests and things that they go through. They still have some scares every once in a while. But to capture it now with Connor, who's just beginning his journey, to me, looking at that, what it means to me is now it's our turn to help. We're kind of through that chapter in our life. Now it's time for us to help Connor, or not just Connor, but all the other little ones that are going to, be starting their journey.
Yep.
So I agree with you on that. That's what the new picture means to me, is okay, now it's time for us to help everybody else.
And for us, it's kind of inspiration, because we're 3 months in, which feels like 3 years or 30 years. It feels like forever being where we are a few months ago, but Connor has a 3 to 3.5 year treatment plan, and so this is just an inspiration to see these girls fought so hard, and one of the girls, Ainsley, had the exact same diagnosis and got through it, and so that's kind of special to us. The other 2 girls as well, because they had equally as hard, if not harder, fights,
but just to see one of the girls has the exact diagnosis and prognosis and went through the same treatment, just kind of shows the bridge, and how it's a continuous process that, some people get treated, some people get healed, and then some people it starts for another family. And then too, while it is a small community, there's only a few people that have each thing, and some kids have unique things. And so you have to really band together, because even these hospitals, I mean, they don't see a ton of it, so they have to share across all the hospitals across the nation. And so, and from being at the hospitals to clinics to saving time, I mean, just all these other moms and parents kind of help you with just little tricks that you wouldn't even think about, and help you get to that next, day and get through it and find coping and all that. And you kind of lift each other up. If someone's having a bad day, you have 10 people to check on you, things like that.
We really
So,
just lean on each other.
Very much so. And we just went through that just a couple days ago. We had somebody that was dealing with something, and we were all right there, everything's going to be okay, and phone calls and messages, and we got her through it. And it's just how it is. I mean, we're all just kind of a family at this point. And not just the 3 girls and Connor, it's all of them.
Everybody. I get countless messages on Facebook from a parent that a kid is newly diagnosed with the same type that Riley had, and they're like, what do I do? Where do I start? Just to be, an advocate in that area. On, I can help as much as I can, and I can be there to call you every day that you have treatment. And you do feel completely alone, because it's your kid and you want to do anything, you can possibly do for your child. Cancer is a very lonely disease. You feel like you're alone the entire time you're battling, but to know that we are a huge family and we're there for each other, I think is great.